Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer. Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. Today's episode, I am joined by Henko Kiessner, and he is the CEO and founder at Packsize. Packsize is focused on right-size packaging for your distribution, fulfillment center, and reducing waste overall when it comes to packaging and making the environment better as a whole. And also making a better experience for the end consumer as well. So they have a bit of a unique business model in terms of how they bring out their equipment and machine, which we're going to talk about, and also how they provide their packaging supplies as well to their customers. So we're going to talk to Henko today about that, and also a little bit about how packaging has an effect on the environment, and also a little bit about sustainability and how Packsize is trying to tackle that issue on the global supply chain. So, Henko, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on the show. I got to know you through, you have this great video that's on the Packsize website, and that was also shared with me. Talking about Packsize and packaging in general. It's actually a pretty profound video as well. And you also have a very cool Tesla in that as well. Is that your Tesla? Is that your personal Tesla?
Yeah, that is actually a lot of fun, and speed and acceleration. That is sort of what that car represents. But at the same time, that is also what we do at Packsize. Speed and acceleration, especially the process flow acceleration through a fulfillment center, directly from the order processing of the inbound on the website, all the way to an accelerated packaging and then also delivery experience for the customer. Everything we do has to do with acceleration. So thank you for noticing that. But that is a lot of fun to have that experience. Acceleration.
I'm sure it is. It looks like a lot of fun in the video. So tell us about Packsize. I mentioned that it's about right-size packaging, but talk to us. What does that mean, and what is it that you guys do at Packsize?
It is really, the overarching headline is smart packaging for a healthy planet. And what that means is that everything that has to do with packaging that we get involved in, not only does it have to be smart, but it also needs to ultimately contribute to a healthy planet. And we achieve this through right-sizing every package that our customers process and then ship to their customers. And if you can imagine how wasteful many of the existing supply chains are, that still use oversized boxes, but then also envelopes and pouches. They almost never fit either. And so there's just tremendous waste. And one example is that if you add up all of this waste across the North American supply chains triggered by oversized boxes, it is 24 million unnecessary truckloads, as one example. So they scope every year. No, this happens every year. And so that gives you the scope of the problem that we are trying to solve. But really, I mean, we are all customers of internet retailing, of fulfillment, and we receive these packages delivered to our homes, to our apartments every day, every other day, or every week at least. And especially with the pandemic now, we do more and more internet retailing and online ordering. This problem is actually amplified by what has happened in 2020 as a result of the COVID pandemic. And that means that it's even more important that we quickly solve this problem across the whole country and actually across the whole world.
Right.
And that's...
Yeah, definitely. And I think you have a huge point there about, we've had this issue for a long time, right? Excessive packaging. And now with the pandemic and COVID, more people have moved to ordering online, which means more packaging for shipping purposes. And it's even more of an issue that needs to be addressed at this point. So you guys are really addressing an issue that's a big issue, not only in terms of cost for companies that have to ship these products, but also in terms of overall well-being and sustainability for the globe, as you mentioned. So I'm curious, how did the idea for Packsize come about? What really kind of sparked this idea for you to come up with this company and this idea?
Yeah, the origin actually is the corrugated material, the Z-fold corrugated.
Okay.
Actually, my father introduced in Europe in the late 60s. But at that point, we didn't have any converting equipment. So as I went into his business in the early 1990s and started working with him, we then quickly connected the corrugated Z-fold that today feeds into our machine and the up-and-coming CNC cutting and scoring technology. And so we began experimenting with this in the late 1990s. And then when I moved to the United States from Germany, we said, okay, this has potential. This is a business model, a solution that actually everyone who uses corrugated boxes ultimately would want to be using. Because why would you buy boxes in bulk and then apply them to an increasingly diversified either manufacturing line or internet retail fulfillment process, right, when really all of the products and orders that you're receiving require infinitely many different packaging configurations. So there was a fundamental mismatch between what the corrugated industry was set up to do and to deliver and what customers ultimately wanted and needed. And so that gap between those two parts in the supply chain, we decided to solve with software, hardware, corrugated equipment, and now also process flow and actually fulfillment and also manufacturing optimization. Because as you can imagine, if you integrate packaging into the operation, then actually needs to look quite different than a batch process that the corrugated industry is mostly using today. So that gap is what triggered the idea. And when we started, the machines were simple and small and slow. And today they're incredibly flexible, incredibly fast, and fully automated. That is probably one of the biggest achievements here of the last number of years, that we can now do packaging in the thousands per hour. In the right size, in the right configuration, without any labor involved even.
We'll be back after a quick break. You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Interesting. Yeah. I love how the idea came about. I always love to hear, how these kind of things unfolded. I guess that's a little pun there. If you're talking about corrugate folding. So, but yeah, I love to hear how these things developed over time. And I love that you saw these gaps that you're talking about. And, one of the things, and, in my experience as well in the warehousing industry, obviously I've seen what you're talking about where, we have these standard size boxes that we order a couple pallets of depending on usage. And there's times, where you have stuff that doesn't necessarily fit in those standard size boxes. Like I've worked for a company where the majority of the products were rather large, but we had like a handful of things that were tiny. And we just didn't have a small box because there just didn't warrant the expense of creating a box that was small. So it ended up getting put in this bigger box with just like a bunch of bubble in it. Which is, a total waste. And the bubble, too, with the plastic is not good for the environment either. And it just gets thrown out, basically. So it's really great that you've seen this gap and been able to kind of attack it. And now expanding that and continuously improving upon your idea and making it fully automated now, too, is even better. To do, 1,000 some packages an hour is pretty remarkable. So, one thing about the business, which I heard you discussing on another podcast as well, in a different interview you were doing, that you have somewhat of a unique model, I guess I would say. And on the show here, we've talked to companies who have software as a service. We've talked to them about hardware as a service now as well, robotics as a service, but you have a little bit of a business model that I think you call packaging as a service, right? So tell us what that means and how does that work for the customer?
Yeah, to answer that question, what I would like to point out is that most customers, pretty much all of our customers, don't really want to be in the packaging business. For them, packaging is a necessary evil often,
right?
And they want to do it, but they don't want to be, and they are not in the core competency of packaging. And so that is where capital deployment becomes a big topic. And packaging as a service addresses that issue. In other words, we deploy the equipment. In many cases, we can even run the equipment for our customers. And the customer has then the benefit of the savings and the advantages of having the right size packaging on day one almost. And that means that you have savings on day one as well, which means that now you don't have to wait 1, 2, or 3 years to get the money back on your investment into equipment, because it is provided to you as a service. And that means that the decision to move forward can be done almost instantaneously after we have agreed on what the process flow should look like. And that is what the essence of packaging as a service is. You have a unit cost, a variable cost per unit, that is lower than the variable cost per unit prior to going to on-demand packaging or right-size packaging on demand. And that is a very compelling value proposition. It accelerates the decision cycles for our customers. It accelerates the speed at which they feel comfortable implementing a solution. And that means that they have savings earlier than they otherwise would have if they had to wait for the next budget cycle or if they had to go through a long capital approval process. So all of these are win-wins, and it is actually the business model that enables that more than anything else.
Right. Yeah, I think that it's really interesting there because you talk about, the capital approval process, and that's usually a big headache, I would say, for a lot of companies because they know that they need this and they know that it'll help them, but then there's just so many people that it has to go through, so many gatekeepers, right, that would need to approve those types of things. So being able to, I guess, remove that capital expense and turn it into a different thing, which is basically the expense of the packaging, which you're going to buy either way, right? Now doing it more efficiently is certainly a win-win. And I imagine for you guys as well, as you're selling the packaging. So that works out very well in your favor too, I'm sure. So now talk to us a little bit about the equipment itself, actually. So now are there different sizes depending on what the company is distributing and what their products are like? How does that work, and how does an implementation kind of get put into place?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We have a complete portfolio of machine platforms that all address a different part of the market. And so that is where, with Packsize, we're the only ones who actually have the complete spectrum from a very slow and manual system that would be appropriate for a very small customer or a startup, all the way to a enterprise-grade, fully automated, high-speed, right-size packaging solution that is also driven by enterprise-grade software. So we have the entire spectrum covered, and the process that a customer goes through as part of their decision-making process is first a value hypothesis. So we start with the value hypothesis and assess, does it even make sense to look at a project? And we do this predictively using predictive analytics, using a few data points that the customer provides us with, so that a high-level assessment can already be made either in favor or against an on-demand packaging system without putting in too much additional work early on. Once the value hypothesis is attractive enough, we then go through a complete analysis and verify the hypothesis. If at the end of that process we are in the ballpark, the customer can then proceed, and then we usually, after the machine is installed, we go into a business review process where we are now tracking how is the value realized compared to how we originally hypothesized it in the early stages of the project before the installation. So this is a 3-year holding ourselves accountable process, if you want to call it that way, where we actually track the performance of the system and the value delivered compared to the original business case. And in between those two phases, we have the installation. And so as part of the original design, we then figure out and discuss with the customer what solution and what configuration and what process flow would actually be best and most profitable and most appropriate for the customer. And that is always a joint design process. We always do this together with the customer, where at the end of the process, we then agree on a certain setup, on a certain piece of equipment, configured in a certain way with the right software. And then once it is installed, there are multiple ways. We can run it for the customer for a while, and then the customer takes it over. And this is mostly appropriate for highly automated systems, because the worry about what happens if the machine goes down is always something that is on the customer's mind. And we can completely insulate the customer from that by us owning the responsibility of the OEE, the equipment operating efficiency that we need to have, and the availability of the equipment. And so all of this combined, we can start up, and then if the customer wants to take it over, they can, but we can also run it for them into perpetuity. And that's another aspect of the packaging as a service business model. Now, if you go to the simpler machines that are not as highly automated and maybe not as fast, you often have the customer taking it over within a day or two.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And so, I mean, I understand the implementation from, installing the hardware part, but you also mentioned the software in there as well. So now, is the software capable of integrating with most systems? I guess it would be integrating with the warehouse management system, or how does that integration work?
Yeah, that is a good point, because everything is integrated these days, right? But this is part of the industrial revolution in a way. And a packaging system really can only perform at optimal levels if it is truly integrated into the process flow of the customer. And so in that way, yeah, it has to be integrated with the WMS, but it also has to be integrated with the shipping software, because the packaging, believe it or not, it's actually the key decision point where shipping charges are determined. And depending on what your pick engine looks like in your fulfillment center, also the pick efficiency actually depends on the packaging to a very large degree. But you can only unlock all of these advantages if you're fully integrated. And that is where PackNet, our enterprise software, actually built this. And now imagine that you are running, let's say, a network of 20 warehouses. I'm just making that number up. But let's say that you're running 20 warehouses. Okay. And they're all connected and interacting with regards to packaging efficiency. And all of them are run from the same cloud-based server software, where PackNet in that case would control, let's say, the 20 buildings. That has to be enterprise grade. And you can imagine that there's huge efficiencies being gained by connectivity and optimizing the efficiency of every machine and every system inside of each one of those buildings, so that the right box is released at the right point in time, at the right size, with the right size, so that you have a fully optimized pick engine, depending on what it looks like, and also so that you have the lowest overall shipping expense, bundled with the greatest customer experience when the box is ultimately delivered to your doorstep.
Right.
And all of this needs to be controlled by software, and that better be enterprise grade, because you don't want that software to crash at any point in time, because then that would be a major point of failure for your entire operation.
Yeah, that's no good.
And that is what we do. And that is actually, I would say, it's almost more software now than it is actually hardware that delivers the operating efficiency.
Interesting. So on the software side, and I guess the hardware side too, is it reading dimensions of the product from the existing software that's in the database, or is it working based on scanning the product as it goes through the machine and then creating the box on what it's read?
It can be both. It can be either or maybe both. And that really depends on the preference of the customer. Now, some operations have a very well defined and built article database that has all the different dimensions and shapes of all of the products that could eventually be packaged, including cavity information, including nesting information, including whether it's a soft item that you can fold in half. Yeah. And if all of this information is available, we can actually pre-calculate before the order actually is being picked what the box size should be. And in that operation, we would not have to scan products anymore. We can pre-calculate what the perfect box configuration is, or packaging configuration for a certain order. Now, if that data isn't available, then we can scan the different items right before they need to be packaged. And then the package would be created right at that point in time after the items were picked into the order bin or into the box in that case. So either way, we can work with that, and we have now integrated into our software stack and also into our technology stack a new recognition camera technology that we are rolling out as we speak, to make this cheaper and simpler for customers to capture all of their different product shapes and dimensions.
Interesting, and I like the flexibility there as well, because I know that I've been in some companies and operations where the data isn't quite as solid as you would want it to be. So having it scan instead of relying on that, I'm sure is a lot more helpful, because you have to have really solid data integrity to make something like that happen, I'm sure. So there's something else you mentioned in there was the improving upon the customer experience as well. So I'm curious, as when something is packaged, how is it arriving to the customer now? How is it what does the packaging look like? Can you put custom logos on it and things of that nature? And how is it sealed, and is it easier to open? Talk to me about that customer experience. Like, what is the customer getting when it arrives to them?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked the question, because customer experience, and then the next iteration, and that is actually customer engagement.
Right.
As a result of perfect and smartest package that you could possibly create, is really one of the single biggest value drivers for right-size packaging on demand. So it starts with that you no longer receive anything that is unnecessarily too large. So first of all, you have a experience. Okay, I ordered this online and the box looks like it is not oversized. That is already by itself a great first step. What goes along with that is that that no unnecessary fiber or filling materials have been used in the preparation of the package and also in the shipping supply chain. You also, as a customer, know that it was more efficient to ship this, which means that the carbon footprint of the delivery supply chain would have been significantly smaller for the perfectly sized box than for an oversized one. Then, as you unpackage the shipment, you now have the potential of placing on-demand printed messaging on either inside or outside panels of the box. So this is where we go from experience or customer experience to customer engagement. You could now have greeting cards on these inside panels where you say, hey, Kevin, thank you so much for ordering this order from us. We ship this with the greatest care for the planet, with the least amount of packaging material necessary. And by the way, if you scan this QR code over here, we have a 10% discount coupon on your next order. And we noticed that you were looking at items on our website that you then didn't check out. And we created a 10% discount on, let's say, the flat screen TV or whatever you looked at but you didn't buy it. And so you can have this custom order by order, package by package now with the new on-demand printing technology that we just rolled out. And you can have this on the inside or on the outside of the box. And this is where we go from customer experience to true engagement. But it doesn't stop there. Now the recycling now has to happen, right? We still have the package. And now the customer is actually easily collapsing the smallest possible box, which now is it's also easiest to put into the recycling bin or have it recycled.
Right.
And that's where truly the customer experience now finishes, because you have an undamaged product in the perfect size, but also the recycling experience was now optimized, and there's no guilt. Because usually when you get these big boxes and you have all this filling material in, I feel bad about what I created here or what the vendor created on my behalf.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times too, there can be some confusion on the consumer side of what filling or dunnage that's used to void fill is actually recyclable or is not recyclable, and then that creates a whole nother issue. Whereas if you're recycling the wrong thing, you're jamming up machines at the recycling center, or maybe you're throwing something out that actually is recyclable, and then it doesn't go through the proper process to make it full circle. So it really interesting how focused you are on the customer experience, because I think that's, I think initially when we look at this from a business perspective, right, probably the initial thing is saving money, right? We're saving money on packaging, we're using less packaging, and that's like the big thing. But then I think the broader scope, I mean, the customer experience is really the driving factor in my eyes, because at the end of the day, the customer experience is really going to probably boost your sales overall. And I think the fact that you're coupling the customer experience also with the sustainability aspect of it as well is really a smart thing and a great thing for the globe as a whole too. So really interesting on that. And I definitely would love to receive a package, every package actually probably with Packsize, because I know exactly what you're talking about. You get these oversized boxes, and now all of a sudden, especially around Christmas, we just had Christmas, the recycling can is getting overfilled, and you're like, oh, now I got boxes that I got to wait until next week to put them out, and it's just taking up all this space. So really, really good stuff. So I'm curious, as we look at Packsize, and, I've talked kind of about, I guess you founded in 2002, so it's been about 18 years now that you've been doing this, and you said, latest kind of thing is, going fully automated, and the machines are more automated. So what's the future of Packsize now going forward? And are there any, I'm curious, because sustainability is such a big mission, I think, for you guys. Are there any specific sustainability goals going into the future of Packsize?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say we are halfway there.
Okay.
We are now 19 years, have a tremendous growth story, and we are at a mass adoption sort of inflection point. And so I would say we are about halfway there. We have so much more runway left to move forward with. And I call it, 19 years and the next 20 years. There's so much more work left to do. And you can, if you go by just how many boxes you are still receiving delivered to your home, or envelopes or plastic mailers that are also not really sustainable. And now you know how much work we have left to do, because ultimately here's really what we need to get to. Every package needs to be perfectly sized and fit perfectly and have the right material used for it. All of this plastic that's going on at the moment with plastic mailers, for instance, they have a little bit less volume, and they sort of fix the corrugated problem from a dimensional perspective, but you're still now with plastic now, and that is just as big of a problem than oversized boxes. And so my vision is every package fits perfectly and is made with the right sustainable, also sustainably sourced, but then also sustainably recyclable material. And that is where paper has the edge at the moment. And so we are looking at paper-based products. All of our supply chain is sustainable forestry industry certified. And we know that paper can be recycled many times. And then when you can't recycle it anymore because the fiber gets too short, lignin, celluloses, and hemicelluloses are polymers that can be absorbed by the biosphere. And that is where plastic has the biggest disadvantage. If you have plastic leaching out into the environment, those molecules will stay with us for thousands, hundreds of, in some cases, millions of years. But for paper, after about 2 or 3 months, the molecules are completely reabsorbed into the biosphere and basically become part of the recycling of CO2 and carbon molecules, and they basically are completely reabsorbed.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think that, obviously we've been fighting after, I guess we created the battle of plastic first, and now we're trying to fight the battle of plastic. I think it's a long fight. But yeah, I think initiatives like this and solutions like this, focusing on, like you said, paper-based packaging is the way to go from an efficiency standpoint. I mean, obviously, if we can get into reusable packaging and things of that nature, but as a whole, that's not such a solid plan for efficiency right now. So, with the paper base, it's certainly a step in the right direction. So, I'm curious for the supply chain overall. Obviously with Packsize, we're addressing this one of the big sustainability issues within the supply chain, which is packaging. But I'm curious your thoughts on how important is it for the supply chain overall to create a more sustainable and better environment in all aspects?
I think we don't have any choice but to do exactly what you just described. We have to become better in every aspect. And that includes what kind of material I'm using, but also no matter how sustainable the material is that you're using, we always need to use less of it. And that is where our big goal is by right-sizing the package. Yeah, we are using the right material, but we are still using way too much of it. And so to lightweight, to optimize, to create the right package protection, not using a single ounce of fiber more than absolutely necessary to get the products to the customer in the most efficient way. That will always have to be the goal. And that is what we are working on day and night. And that is why I think we still have 20 more years of opportunity ahead of us at least,
Right.
because there's so many more ideas, so many more opportunities where the supply chain, even the way we look at it today, is not optimized yet. And these are all of the innovation cycles that at Packsize we have decided we're going to go through those. We're not going to rest until all of this is figured out and optimized. We have one customer that always tells me, Henkel, let's optimize the heck out of this. and it's our commitment, and this is the statement that we always take as that is the goal. We need to optimize the heck out of everything we do. So this is a never-ending journey, or at least not for the next 20 years. And it's going to be a fun journey. It's going to be a journey that all of you and myself and all of us as consumers, when we receive the packaging delivered to our homes, we will see the progress every year now moving forward into the right direction. Definitely,
yeah. And I totally agree. And I think, like you said, there's a lot of opportunity still out there. So it's going to be a long process, but the more we can do now and the more we can optimize the heck out of, like you mentioned, we can certainly take steps in the right direction. I'm curious, do you foresee a future in our lifetimes where plastic is greatly reduced and not used for packaging in any sense anymore? Do you think that's achievable?
Well, okay. So in our area of transportation and packaging, transportation purposes, I'm not talking about food processing now. I'm talking about transportation and product shipping. Absolutely, yes. We can do this today. We don't have to wait. We don't have to wait with that. We can get plastic out of every packaging that we are currently shipping through the internet retail supply chains. Where I think it's a little more tricky with regards to plastic is the food processing, where we have individual pieces of food that are all sealed into the same kind of plastic. That's where paper, I think, has a development left to do on the paper engineering side. Like, is it wax paper, or what kind of polymer engineering do we have to go through to create the properties of plastic, but we still use biodegradable polymers that may be plant-based in this case, that if they get ejected out into the environment, they can be reabsorbed by the biosphere. So, but as far as our market and the arenas that we are playing in, we can do this today.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. We can make this choice today. It's all about choice, right? You just have to make the choice to get rid of plastic, because there's options out there like Packsize that can help you do that. And not only do it just because it's the right thing to do, but do it to help you save money too. So that's a great thing on both ends, and definitely win-wins all around with Packsize, I would say. I'm very impressed with the company. So Henko, thank you so much for coming on the show. How can people find out more information about Packsize?
I think maybe start with the website packsize.com and or give us a call. I got Melissa sitting right here next to me, and they have a fantastic program where even if you're Googling Packsize or if you're going on our website, Melissa, we can sort of sense that, and then a chat bot comes up, and you can engage with us in that way. But I think the website would be a good place to start, right?
Okay, sounds great. And we'll put a link to that on thenewwarehouse.com as well. And we'll also post that really great video of Henko in nature and enjoying his Tesla and talking about sustainability on the website as well. So Henko, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Kevin.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.